3 p.m. Here in Cairo for our news bulletin. I am Mahis Rabia and I have all the pleasure to be working with my dear colleague Mirna Al-Ghaznawi. Good day to you, Mirna.
Good day to you, Mahis, and good day to you, dear viewers. And we start our news bulletin with the headlines. President Sisi and Biden to coordinate closely in coming hours amid Gaza deal talks. Despite efforts to reach a truce deal in Gaza, Israel keeps on attacks against Palestinians. And under President Sisi's directives, Foreign Minister Abdel Ati visits Port Sudan to meet senior Sudanese officials.
President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi discussed with U.S. President Joe Biden underway negotiations for a ceasefire deal in Gaza over a phone call he received from his U.S. counterpart on Tuesday. President al-Sisi reviewed the intensive mediation efforts by Egypt, U.S. and Qatar to reach a deal on Gaza, as well as in exchanging prisoners between Israel and the Palestinian group Hamas. The two presidents stressed the importance of showing flexibility by the two warring parties and agreed to remain in close coordination in the coming hours. For his part, President Sisi stressed the importance of reaching an immediate agreement on a ceasefire in order to put an end for the Palestinian suffering in Gaza and to ensure the flow of aid into the besieged territory. The head of state also highlighted the significance of avoiding conflict expansion in the region.
In Palestinian Prime Minister Mohammed Mustafa said on Wednesday that the international community will have to maintain pressure on Israel after an imminent ceasefire in Gaza, so it accepts the creation of a Palestinian state. Addressing an international conference in Oslo on Israeli-Palestinian two-state solution, Mustafa added the Palestinian Authority must be the sole governing power in Gaza after the war. Dozens of countries attended the conference, the third of the Global Alliance for the Implementation of the Two-State Solution, whose creation was announced in September on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly in New York. The first two meetings of the Global Alliance were held in Saudi Arabia in late October and in Brussels in late November.
The head of the UN's Palestinian Refugee Agency, UNRWA, Philippe Lazzarini, also addressed the Oslo conference, vowing to continue aid to Palestinians despite an Israeli ban. The UNRWA is the backbone of the UN aid operations in the Palestinian-occupied territories. However, an Israeli law banning its operation in Israel and contact with Israeli authorities is due to take effect later this month. Earlier, Norway's foreign minister said that there is broad support for a two-state solution, but the international community must do more to make it a reality.
And Hamas said marathon talks in Qatar over a ceasefire in Gaza had reached the final steps, and it hoped that this round of negotiations would lead to a deal. But a senior Hamas official said the Palestinian group had not delivered its response yet because it was still waiting for Israel to submit maps showing how its forces would withdraw from Gaza. Under terms of the latest draft deal, the first steps would feature a 6-week initial ceasefire. The plan also includes a gradual withdrawal of Israeli forces from central Gaza and the return of displaced Palestinians to North Gaza. The deal would also require Hamas to release 33 Israeli hostages, along with the release of Palestinian prisoners.
Despite the efforts to reach a ceasefire, Israeli attacks killed at least 13 Palestinians across the Gaza Strip. Those included 7 people who were in a school sheltering displaced families in the Gaza city, and 6 others killed in separate airstrikes on houses in Deir el-Balah, Burej Camp and Rafah. The attacks comes while Palestinians in the Gaza Strip expressed their hope over news of a potential ceasefire deal that would end 15 months of Israeli war. The Palestinian territory's health officials said at least 62 people were killed in the enclave in the past 24 hours, taking the overall war death toll to 46,707.
In the West Bank, an Israeli airstrike on the Jenin refugee camp in the northern part of the territory killed 6 people. The Ramallah-based ministry said in a statement 6 martyred and several injured fell as a result of the Israeli bombing of Jenin refugee camp on Tuesday. The Israeli military confirmed a drone strike in the area, but gave no further details. Israeli forces make frequent raids on Palestinian towns and villages in the West Bank. At least 831 Palestinians were killed in the West Bank since the start of the Gaza war, either by Israeli occupation troops or settlers.
Under directives of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Immigration and Expatriates Badr Abdelati headed to Port Sudan on Wednesday in a visit to Sudan aimed at boost relations between the two countries and as a part of increasing the mutual ministerial visits between Egypt and Sudan. At a meeting with Sudanese counterpart Ali Youssef El-Sharif, Foreign Minister Abdelati asserted Egypt's full support to Sudan and its institutions, reiterating the importance of preserving Sudan's unity and territorial integrity. The top diplomat also stressed the importance of efforts to reach a ceasefire and to ensure Sudanese security, hailing government's latest measures to enhance Sudan's people's access to humanitarian aid.
Lebanon's new Prime Minister Nawaf Salam said that he was reaching out to all political persuasions to help rescue his country ahead of talks aimed at forming a government. After 2 years of a caretaker administration, Salam faces the difficult task of assembling a cabinet to pull the country out of an economic collapse. The new government will also need to oversee the implementation of a fragile ceasefire with Israel. Salam spoke as parliamentary consultation started 2 days after new President Joseph Aoun tasked him with forming a government.
United Nations Rights Chief Volker Turk on Wednesday urged an easing of economic sanctions on Syria after Bashar al-Assad's fall during the first ever visit by someone in his post in the country. Meanwhile, Syria's foreign minister will be making his first visit to Turkey on the first official trip to the country since the former Syrian president left Damascus last month. Interim Foreign Minister Asad al-Shibani on X praised the Turkish Republic, saying it has not abandoned the Syrian people for 14 years.
And Ukrainian officials said Russia on Wednesday launched a major ballistic and cruise missile attack on regions across Ukraine, targeting energy production. They added that the attacks compelled authorities to shut down the power grid in some areas despite freezing winter weather. The Russian Defense Ministry said that it launched a strike on critically important facilities of gas and energy infrastructure that ensure the functioning of Ukraine's military-industrial complex. The barrage came a day after the Russian Defense Ministry vowed a response to an attack on Russian soil using Western supplied missiles.
Impeached South Korean leader Yoon Suk-yeol was arrested on Wednesday over his failed martial law bid, ending weeks-long standoff with the authorities. Yoon was questioned by the authorities in relation to criminal insurrection investigation, saying he was only cooperating with what he called an illegal probe to avoid violence. A former prosecutor who led the Conservative People Power Party to election victory in 2022, Yoon could face the death penalty or life in jail if found guilty of insurrection.
Firefighters held the line against 2 massive wildfires that have ravaged parts of the U.S. city of Los Angeles for the past week, even as desert winds presented extremely hazardous conditions. Some 8,500 firefighters from at least 7 states and 2 foreign countries prevented the blazes from growing for the 3rd day running. Still, the fires, which killed 25 people, have consumed an area the size of Washington, D.C.
economic news, Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli today witnessed the inauguration ceremony of a Chinese manufactured vehicles assembly factory in Egypt. The Prime Minister watched a documentary on the global Chinese automaker Geely Auto, which manufactures the vehicles. The factory aims at meeting the local demand and exporting up to 30,000 Geely vehicles abroad. The factory's operation is the prime step towards localizing and increasing the local components in the vehicles industry in Egypt, activating vehicle supply chains and supportive projects in the national market.
Egypt's bourse inched higher at midday, transactions pushed by Arab and foreign investor purchases against local investor sell-offs. The market capital of listed companies added 18 billion Egyptian pounds, so far exceeding 2.1 trillion pounds. The benchmark index EGX 30 rose 0.3% above the 12,786 point mark. The equal-weighted indices, the EGX 70 and EGX 100, both climbed 0.5%.
The German economy shrank for the second straight year in 2024, as worried the consumers held back on spending and the Chinese competition ate into the country's traditional exports of cars and industrial machinery. According to the preliminary official figures released today, the gross domestic product contracted by 0.2% last year, following 0.3% decline in 2023, weeks before an election in which the economy is a top issue. Contenders to lead the next government have made contrasting proposals on how to inject new vigor into the economy.
Moving to the world of sports, the national team kick off their qualifying campaign in the 2025 Men's World Handball Championship.
Pyramids will take on Ghazl al-Mahalla in the 8th round of the Egyptian Premier League at the International Defense Stadium at 4 p.m. Cairo local time. Also in the same round, defending champions Al-Ahli will clash with host El Gouna at 7 p.m. Cairo local time. The Red Devils topped the league standings on 15 points after a 4-winning streak and 3 draws. El Gouna ranked 17th on 6 points.
And Nottingham Forest demonstrated its unlikely Premier League title credentials by holding Liverpool to a 1-1 draw. Diogo Jota scored with a header from a corner in the 66th minute, just 22 seconds after coming on as a substitute to earn Liverpool the draw. That maintained its 6-point cushion over Forest, which moved into second place. Forest remains the only team to beat Liverpool in the league this season after a 1-0 win in September. Dear viewers, by this we come to the end of our news bulletin. You're in the company of myself, Mirna Ghaznawi, along with my dear colleague Mahisi Rabia.
Thank you so much, Mirna. Always a pleasure. Thank you so much, our dear viewers.